have no felonies. I'm not crazy or none of that. It's like, I just want the truth, and it's so hard to get it from the courts. And it seems like Jay-Z don't want to say anything. So, you know, I don't want to see him go down for something that, you could have just got taken care of. That's it.
Jay-Z just flipped the script, making the man claiming to be his son cough up almost $120,000. Now that same man says he's scared for his life. What everyone thought was the end of a wild, decade-long paternity fight might actually just be another chapter in a much bigger story. The billionaire who seems untouchable scored another courtroom win, but the silence that came after, it doesn't feel natural. It feels planned. Hours after the case got tossed out, Ramir Satterwhite suddenly backed off, hinting that something shady was happening behind closed doors. Then, just like that, he vanished from the public eye, while his godmother got slammed with the massive court judgment. The court papers say the case was dismissed with prejudice. The final tab, exactly $119,235.45. Jay-Z's legal team called the whole thing decades of harassment. But Ramir fired back, saying it was fraud, that he was being punished just for asking for a DNA test in 2025. He swore he'd fight till the end. Yet by early 2026, his posts started sounding darker. He said he was getting threats, tagged the FBI, and warned, "It's not over." Official reports claim justice was served, but something feels off. Why are the people who go against Jay-Z suddenly quiet or gone? Some leaks claim this isn't about closure, it's about control. And the next bombshell might finally expose who's really pulling the strings. The court filings might be public, but reading them feels more like a threat than a win. The final order dropped quietly in mid-July. No cameras, no media buzz, just a cold case dismissed with prejudice. Every claim shut down for good. And then came the twist. Ramir Satterwhite's godmother got slapped with a $120,000 payment to Sean Carter, also known as Jay-Z. No hearing, no witness stand, not even a statement. Just a silent digital stamp from the billionaire's legal team, locking the whole thing away. Within hours, Ramir, the same guy who had been begging for a DNA test for years, posted that he was backing off because things were happening behind closed doors. Then, like smoke, he vanished. Messages to his old profile stopped getting replies, and the few supporters who once boosted his cause started deleting their posts. Some whispered about lawyers and warnings, like they'd been told to shut it down. The official version says he walked away on his own, but people close to him paint a different picture. They say he was drained and terrified after getting what they describe as non-stop calls, pressure, and subtle threats. They say he sounded broken, like he knew something he couldn't say out loud. That same week, his godmother's emails went dark too. Her family told local outlets she was reconsidering everything. On paper, this judgment looks clean and procedural, but in reality, it feels like a hit job. Swift, silent, final. And here's the part that doesn't add up. Ramir had been saying for months he wouldn't quit until Jay-Z agreed to a DNA test. So why the sudden silence? Something doesn't match, and the timeline reeks of something deeper hiding in plain sight. He told everyone, this isn't about money, this is about truth. But then, out of nowhere, his own filings vanished. Early July, everything he'd built was wiped out and replaced by one cold line. Withdrawal, with no reason given.
And I'm not saying allegedly.
Oh, okay, what's that?
I'm saying, Sean Carter, you're a piece of shit. Taking Pimp C wasn't bad enough. You just want to go down there and you want to just remove all of the balls from every real gangster in Houston.
And just 2 days later, insiders say Jay-Z's powerhouse legal team hit back hard, filing a motion for sanctions under California's anti-SLAPP law, the kind usually used to crush fake harassment suits. The judge approved it instantly. No hearing, no debate, no voice from the other side. Lawyers who've reviewed the order call it strange, not because of the verdict, but because of how fast it happened. The ink dried before Ramir even realized he'd lost. It's being whispered that this wasn't about shutting down harassment. It was about sending a message loud and clear. Don't come for the throne. That final number, $119,235.45, feels too precise to be random. It's the kind of figure that looks like clean accounting on paper, but behind the scenes, it reads like a warning, almost like saying, challenge a king, and you pay the crown. When Ramir resurfaced online, he was fuming. He blasted the ruling as a publicity stunt, shouting that fraud is not protected speech. He even tagged the FBI and former Florida Attorney General Pam Bondi, swearing he'd appeal. His anger wasn't just defiance. It sounded like a man cornered, fighting to prove he wasn't lying. Something about this story still feels unfinished, and maybe that's the point. He came out swinging, accusing the court of covering up behavior that had nothing to do with real law. He said the anti-SLAPP defense was being twisted, used not to stop harassment, but to shield fraud and inappropriate conduct. His words hit hard, but what really grabbed people's attention was what he didn't say. He avoided mentioning Jay-Z's name entirely. That silence spoke volumes. Industry watchers noticed the shift instantly. To them, it screamed self-censorship, like someone scared to say too much. This was the same man who once shouted that he just wanted his day in court, and now his posts sounded cautious, like he was being watched. Every line read like it had been filtered, polished, or approved before it went public. Around that same time, his godmother suddenly reappeared online, just long enough to announce she was appealing a federal court ruling. She said she wanted answers about whether courts can refuse to even look at claims when the question of jurisdiction isn't clear. But before anyone could ask more, she vanished again. No press, no follow-ups, nothing. It's like the people who started this fight were pulled right into a black hole of silence. On paper, the legal trail looks tidy and procedural, but the atmosphere around it, it's tense, suspicious, and almost chilling. The documents tell one story, but the whispers around them tell something far more dangerous. Supporters have been pointing out something strange in Jay-Z's filings, the repeated phrase, decades-long harassment. They're asking, how could a man in his early 30s have been harassing anyone for decades? It doesn't add up. Every time this case comes back to life, new legal phrases pop up like clockwork. Fabricated allegations, systematically rejected, contempt orders, but no one can find a single record of him ever being punished for contempt before this year. Meanwhile, Jay-Z's legal team keeps repeating the same line, that he was never properly served. To outsiders, that sounds like some dry paperwork issue. But in legal circles, that phrase means something deeper. It's a delay tactic. People are starting to think this whole case isn't about justice at all. It's about waiting the other side out. What was supposed to be a simple DNA test has turned into a psychological war. At this point, it doesn't feel like they're testing biology anymore. It feels like they're testing endurance. How long can one person take being buried under legal red tape and endless motions? That's the real experiment here. What's keeping this story alive is the pattern. This isn't the first time Jay-Z's name has been tied to accusations that mysteriously disappear under piles of legal paperwork. Back in 2014, the woman at the center of it all, Wanda Satterwhite, said she had a relationship with him back in the mid-1990s, when she was reportedly underage, and he was already in his 20s. Before Wanda passed in 2016, she even recorded a video pleading for him to do the right thing and take the DNA test. But that video, it never made it to court. Every time her son tried to include it in his filings, the courts blocked it, calling it a jurisdictional issue. And when he tried again later, New Jersey courts went as far as to ban him from submitting any more paternity suits without prior approval. For supporters, that wasn't closure. It was cover-up. And now, years later, the same questions are still haunting the case louder than ever. 10 years of court filings spread across multiple states, and not a single hearing on the actual facts. To anyone watching closely, this doesn't look like justice being served. It looks like containment, a maze of legal tactics built to make sure the wrong questions never reach the record. When the latest judge ended the case with the phrase, "without leave to amend," insiders instantly recognized the message. It's courtroom code for "don't come back." And here's where things get even messier. The personal and political suddenly start to overlap. Just months before that final ruling, Jay-Z and Beyoncé were spotted dining with Ivanka Trump and Jared Kushner at a high-end casino gala in Atlantic City. At first, it seemed like nothing more than a celebrity night out. But once that photo hit the internet, people started connecting dots fast. Commenters jumped on it immediately. One wrote, "Got it," while another said, "He always knew how to pick the right tables." To most folks, it was just another glitzy dinner. But to those tracking this case, it felt like confirmation that Jay-Z's influence stretches way beyond the courtroom, right into political circles of serious power. And the timing? Almost too perfect. That same week, Lily Coley filed a federal complaint accusing not only Jay-Z, but also the New Jersey Attorney General's Office of misconduct. Just days after the dinner photo went viral, her case was quietly dismissed. Officially, the two events had nothing to do with each other. Unofficially, The timing had everyone talking. It's got people wondering, was that dinner just good PR? Or was it a power move dressed up as fine dining? Something about it all feels a little too calculated. What's fueling the latest wave of speculation isn't just legal drama. It's fear, and not the courtroom kind, the personal kind. People who once stood proudly beside Ramir's story are suddenly backing off. Some now say they were misquoted, while others just want peace. But behind the scenes, whispers are growing that something far heavier is keeping people quiet. One family friend said he started getting late-night calls from numbers he didn't recognize after posting court files online.
This is what I look for. When I see a success, I'm looking for anything
to say that they didn't do it on their own?
Detain it, not this.
I would hope he would think about it and this would be in his mind, but I wouldn't actually know what another person is feeling.
Another claimed an industry contact reached out with a warning. Stay away from this case. It might sound paranoid if it weren't for Ramir himself saying in a July 27th video that he was afraid for his safety. That clip disappeared from Instagram within days, but copies survived on smaller mirror sites, blurry, cropped, and hard to watch. People who've seen the full version say he looked pale, shaken, and kept repeating, "Things are happening behind closed doors." That phrase has now exploded online, turning into a digital rallying cry. Shorthand for the invisible hand people believe is keeping this whole story buried. Still, the official narrative hasn't budged. Jay-Z's legal team keeps calling the case frivolous, painting it as nothing more than a long-running harassment campaign. They argue that the ruling wasn't about silencing anyone. It was about protecting the courts from false filings and wasted resources. But when reporters tried to find the evidence behind those claims, things got weird. They asked for records of previous contempt orders, proof of the alleged harassment, yet not a single document was available. Nothing on file, nothing public, nothing to match the story being told. So now the question echoing online is simple, but chilling. If everything's really transparent, why does the truth keep disappearing? The court's administrative office confirmed something shocking. Those key records are sealed. That alone raised eyebrows. But the real twist came next. The anti-SLAPP law used in this case, it's meant for media defamation, not paternity. Legal experts are calling that move rare, even aggressive. One retired judge told a podcast host, "That's the kind of motion you file when you want to shut someone up fast." On paper, Jay-Z's team scored a solid win. But in the public eye, it's only made things murkier. The victory feels less like a legal triumph and more like a strategic warning. Commentators now whisper that the courtroom is just one of the weapons in Jay-Z's arsenal. Money, power, and influence doing the rest behind the curtain. And that money factor, it's no coincidence. The $120,000 judgment isn't just about covering legal costs. It's a precision strike. It ensures that the losing side isn't just silenced. They're shackled by debt. Supporters of Ramir say he doesn't have that kind of cash, accusing the court of turning his debt into a leash meant to keep him quiet. Meanwhile, Jay-Z's empire only grows. His net worth, last estimated by Forbes at $2.5 billion, keeps climbing. He's expanding Roc Nation's sports management arm, renewing luxury partnerships with LVMH, and tightening his NFL deals. Every business move screams power and control. The visual contrast couldn't be starker. A billionaire mogul standing tall while one man struggles just to get a DNA test. Every court win makes Jay-Z look even more untouchable, while every setback makes Ramir fade smaller in the public eye. What began as a legal fight has turned into a modern-day story about power. Who has it, who doesn't, and how far someone will go to keep it. Here's where the whole story takes a wild turn. The same law firm that defended Jay-Z in this paternity battle is now tangled in a federal lawsuit accusing him, alongside Sean Diddy Combs, of involvement in an intimate assault case from the early 2000s. The filings refer to Celebrity A as Jay-Z, and he's denied every allegation, calling them heinous. Still, the overlap between these two cases, the same lawyers, the timing, and the sudden wave of sealed court motions has conspiracy boards lighting up like fireworks. People online are starting to ask the hard questions. Could the legal pressure on Ramir's case have been part of a bigger cleanup effort, an attempt to wipe the slate before the Diddy scandal exploded? There's no solid proof yet, but the pattern is impossible to ignore. Suppression, silence, withdrawal, repeat. One case gets dismissed, another gets sealed, a new filing appears, then disappears. It's like watching someone scrub the internet in real time. To many, this doesn't look like random coincidence. It looks like crisis management at the highest level. Observers say it feels less like a family dispute and more like a coordinated effort to control what the public gets to see before things spiral out of control. And through it all, Ramir refuses to back down. He keeps posting, "It's not over until we win," while Jay-Z's camp continues firing back with denial after denial. Judges, meanwhile, are moving faster than anyone can keep up, signing orders, sealing documents, and shutting doors before more questions can be asked. The official version of events says it's simple, a baseless claim defeated in court. But every new detail, every vanishing post, every name suddenly going quiet makes it feel like something much bigger is lurking underneath. What if T-Power like this doesn't just start in a courtroom? It's built long before that, brick by brick, habit by habit, before the billion-dollar empire, before the boardrooms and brand deals. Sean Carter, better known as Jay-Z, was already mastering control. From the corners of the streets to the tables of high-stakes meetings, he learned early that survival and strategy go hand in hand. He once said in interviews that the streets taught him business, the art of flipping struggle into success. But those same instincts that created a global dynasty also created a pattern. Time and time again, big confrontations would rise up, then mysteriously fade before hitting their peak. Rivals backed down. Critics went silent. The tension always broke his way. Back in 1999, when he stabbed record producer Lance Rivera, Jay-Z famously turned himself in, smiled for the cameras, and somehow walked away with probation. Years later, when footage surfaced of him striking a fan backstage, his team quickly claimed it was taken out of context. And when singer Rita Ora tried to break free from Roc Nation, she ended up hit with a multi-million-dollar lawsuit instead. The pattern never changes. Attack, deny, control the story, move forward even richer. Now that same rhythm is pulsing through this paternity scandal. A court order shuts someone down, a voice disappears, and once again, the billionaire walks away untouchable. But this time, people are watching closer than ever. The fallout isn't just about reputation. It's about fear, silence, and the echoes of old-school power plays dressed in modern suits. Whispers are growing that those street lessons Jay-Z once bragged about never really left. They just got sharper, slicker, and much harder to trace. His so-called ending isn't an ending at all, but just the beginning of a story that's about to bare its teeth. They just wear suits now. Inside the industry, everyone acts like they don't see what's right in front of them. The very same week Ramir's filings vanished, Jay-Z was all smiles, photographed courtside, laughing it up with top executives whose companies depend on his partnerships. His luxury drink deal with LVMH still shines. His NFL partnership through Roc Nation keeps rolling strong, and not one brand has flinched. Even as civil filings start linking his name to a wider investigation involving Sean Combs. Corporate boards are keeping dead quiet, but insiders say it's not about loyalty, it's about leverage. A source from a major entertainment law firm spilled that when he moves, everyone else checks their contracts. The fear isn't about guilt, it's about association. To step back means admitting something's wrong, but staying silent keeps the money train rolling. So silence wins, every time. Meanwhile, Ramir's side keeps pushing forward with appeals. But every single motion gets slapped down with the same cold response. No standing, no merit, no jurisdiction.
Sean has to take responsibility for what he did as an individual. Sean is the one who pulled that gun out. Sean is the one who shot. So he has to take responsibility for that.
To the public, it just looks procedural, a routine legal denial. But to those who've worked under Jay-Z's orbit, it looks like cleanup in motion. His image stays pristine, his influence untouched, and the higher his empire climbs, the smaller his challengers seem to become. And deep in the paper trail, the fragments are starting to connect. A 2022 filing in New Jersey warned Ramir and his godmother not to submit any more claims without prior permission. A legal muzzle dressed up as efficiency. Then, just a year later, a California court labeled their fight as harassment, granting Jay-Z's team the massive fee award. Piece by piece, it's painting a picture of control that runs deeper than contracts or courtrooms. It's about power polished to perfection, power that never even has to raise its voice to win. That six-figure judgment didn't just end one fight, it lit a fuse. The ruling has quietly turned into a new kind of precedent. Now, other musicians and producers are using the same anti-SLAPP argument to wipe out lawsuits. Employees citing it to erase harassment claims. Producers invoking it to dodge breach of contract battles. It's spreading fast, like a legal playbook for containment. He's building law around himself, one retired court clerk said. Every dismissal becomes another brick in a wall, each ruling another shield. Even his current ties to Diddy's federal investigation seem to fit right into that structure. Different accusations, same exact playbook. Shrink the battlefield until no one else can swing. Behind the glossy photos, the awards, the family-friendly image, there's a fortress made of legal paperwork and airtight settlements. His team of lawyers have turned defense into pure strategy. Every sealed record, every confidential motion, every quiet payout, another layer of armor. But that armor isn't designed to protect innocence. It's built to protect control. And now cracks are starting to show on the outside. Anonymous posts claim Ramir isn't the only one who's been warned to back off. Two other names are being whispered. Former associates who supposedly tried to bring separate claims years ago. Both dropped them. Both vanished from public view. And their social media? Frozen. No updates since around the same time Ramir withdrew his case. Online forums are already connecting the dots. People are talking about supposed hush payments disguised as consulting fees, defamation threats buried inside NDAs, and even overlapping witnesses in the Diddy case who suddenly can't remember key details. Nothing's confirmed yet, but the pattern is unmistakable. The story's not just about one man fighting a billionaire anymore. It's about how far power can stretch when it wraps itself in the law. The suspicion hanging in the air now is that this whole thing stopped being about one man's reputation a long time ago. It's about protecting an entire system. Because if even a fraction of what's been whispered turns out to be true, it wouldn't just expose a paternity secret, it would rip open an entire industry built on silence, power, and carefully traded favors. That's the real shadow stretching across everything. From courtroom dockets all the way to the luxury suites of every corporation tied to his name. But the hardest part to ignore isn't the money or the legal moves. It's the emotional fallout. People who once idolized him now say the confidence looks rehearsed, the calm too polished, the charm too perfect. Fans still stream the music, still post the lyrics, but under every comment, there's division, arguments between believers and skeptics, defenders clashing with conspiracy threads filled with talk of intimidation and vanishing proof. Even the cultural machine that once made Jay-Z feel untouchable now seems uneasy. Every silence, every unspoken pause carries weight, and Beyoncé's quiet has turned into its own kind of headline. An absence that fans read in two ways, either as loyal solidarity or subtle rebellion. Sources close to her team claim everyone's been told to say nothing, keep moving, but the tension still hums beneath the surface. Now the question echoing through both fan bases, through the industry itself, is the same. When power starts protecting silence instead of truth, what happens next? How long can the perfect image really hold before the cracks get too big to crop out? The harder his side pushes the message that it's over, the more people feel that it's definitely not. And now comes the part that never shows up in official filings, the whispers about what might be coming next. Federal investigators are reportedly digging through financial records tied to Sean Combs' companies, and Jay-Z's name has started showing up in related documents, not as a direct target, but as someone who was there during key events in the early 2000s. His attorney, Alex Spiro, has publicly slammed all of it as heinous and baseless. But the timing is what's raising eyebrows everywhere. Observers are starting to connect dots between these federal probes and the sudden punishment Ramir faced. Some believe the paternity case wasn't just an embarrassment, it was a liability. Wiping it off the table before subpoenas started flying may have been about more than protecting pride. It could have been about protecting the empire. Think about it. Getting that case buried before the federal spotlight turned on keeps everything spotless, almost too spotless. And that's what's making people suspicious. If that theory holds weight, then the judgment against one man in Philadelphia wasn't about proving or disproving paternity. It was about building a billion-dollar firewall before the next scandal could burn through it. Now, when you look back at the silence that followed, the vanishing posts, the deleted videos, the unanswered calls, it doesn't sound like victory anymore. It sounds like strategy. Every quiet move, every sealed document feels less like the end of a fight and more like the start of a cover that's just now beginning to slip. And now, the story stands on a razor's edge, caught between power and exposure. Neither side looks ready to give in. The lawsuits, the sealed records, the trembling voices, the luxury boardrooms pretending not to notice. It's all spinning around the same center. A man who built an empire from nothing now faces claims that he's using that same drive to bury anyone who dares remind him where he came from. Maybe this is just how power works, always protecting itself no matter the cost. Or maybe this is the moment it all starts to break. Because when the walls you build to defend your name start looking more like evidence than armor, how long before the truth pushes through the cracks? And what happens if the people who disappeared from the fight start coming back with proof, with receipts, with messages, with the kind of evidence that can't be deleted? How long can an empire built on loyalty survive when that loyalty starts to look a whole lot like fear? So tell me, what do you see here? Is this justice, corruption, or just survival disguised as strategy? Because whatever this is, it's far from over. Make sure to like, subscribe, share, and drop your theories in the comments, because the next chapter of this saga could change everything.